This is an older article, but it's definitely worth revisiting. And I have a habit of, well, possibly because of how I was trained. I don't just look at what's going on right now in the immediate future. Go back and revisit certain issues. This is from February 18th, 2011. Okay, but it's off of the Stuff Hits a Fan site. Okay, little bit conspiratorial, but hey, you know what? There's a reason conspiracy theories get around, because they're partly true. That's a fact. They partly are true. Just keep things in perspective, though, and go a lot by human nature. This goes on and talks about gold confiscation. That's basically the topic, but I want to put this in some kind of like common sense, reasonable light, if you will. Anyway, it's no secret that the U.S. government is broke. We all know that, right? The U.S. dollar is crashing and losing credibility globally. The IMF, China, France, and others have publicly stated their desire to eliminate the dollar as the world's primary reserve currency. We all know that. The IMF, for example, recently, and this is talking back in early 2011, recently issued a call to replace the Federal Reserve's fiat paper, ironically suggesting that it should be replaced with another synthetic instrument known as the SDR, special drawing rights. And actually, special drawing rights has been around for a long time. SDR is essentially a monetary unit made up of a basket of other global monetary units that include the euro, Japanese yen, pound sterling, and US dollar. Incidentally, prior to the collapse of the Bretton Woods gold-backed US dollar monetary system in 1973, the SDR was actually backed by gold. And we had to take it off the gold standard because people would have been taking their dollars and buying up all the gold for $35 an ounce, and there would be no gold left. So it was disappearing. So that was why President Richard Nixon had to take us off the gold standard completely. It wasn't a matter of he just happened to be the guy in there at the time that things changed enough where they could no longer keep that situation where dollars issued could be traded in for gold. So they had to take us off the gold standard. So quite obviously what was going on. The one SDR back then was worth roughly 0.88 grams of gold at the time, $1 US. It has been suggested that a new SDR would likely include the Chinese yuan. I would think that would be a given within the basket, and may also require some non-synthetic units of exchange such as gold. Now, one thing I found interesting is talking about, they previously commented on the possibility of gold confiscation and other steps that may be taken by our financier-controlled government in the event that gold does reach certain levels, reaching these new thresholds, for example, $2,000 or $5,000 an ounce. One would suggest that the U.S. dollar has likely crashed and begun the final collapse into oblivion. Now, first off, not that I'm trying to make anybody, well, I don't think anybody's going to panic over this anyway because they heard it so many times. But let me just say, plain as obvious as anything, there's not going to be any gold confiscation before any elections, that's for sure. That that's an indelible fact. So this is something that's coming up a little later on. And I think what's going to happen, though, is gold is going to go up quite a bit because there's going to be a lot of QE going on to pump things up for the elections. And globally, including in Europe. So we're going to see the metals do fantastic this year. I think they're going to do great. It's almost like there's one year is a bad year, the next year might be a great year. That's why you really can't go by. You can go by history as far as good lessons of what goes on in human nature, but as far as silver's went up a lot in 2010, well, that doesn't mean it's going to go up in 2011. And we've seen that was the case. you know. But right now, things are looking like, well, we got doubts about what could happen, and we see how they can crash it down, or whatever. But well, we see how it can crash down. Let me use it that way, because so people are less confident in making very high predictions. But I'm not just saying this, but I think silver is going to go like really, really good this year. Maybe not as high as some people are saying, because some people are just totally off the wall, but it could be that $75 to $100 an ounce that Lindsey Williams was talking about, and he's going to go back on the Alex Jones show and tell you everything. And I don't think he's a bad guy or nothing. I'm not knocking him, but I think there's a lot of garbage being thrown out there, and it's misleading people. So that's what I'm saying, and I don't think he's the guy that's intending to do that. Gerald Celente had been forecasting 2,000 gold for years. Says that when governments will intervene if the price gets too high. Now, that's not a conspiracy theory. That's a fact. We all know that's what happens. I mean, if it gets too high, I mean, the losing could, well, I don't want to put it like us against them, but the government loses control when the price of gold is getting too high. And quite obviously, that means they're going to have to do something to keep control. So that's usually where there's always an attempted confiscation. I use that word, attempted. So they're projecting the gold to go to 2,000 and go way higher, but we think that if that's going to be the limit, because the world governments will do something to push the price down. So this is where I got an issue, a major issue with these people predicting $20,000 gold, $10,000 gold. I don't know. 5,000 might be reasonable. That's pretty high, but that might be good. That might be a good number where it's going to. But that's what I always keep thinking. They're going to find a way to push it down. There's got to be a way to push it down, because the people on the top don't want to lose control. So, and I know you hear about this stuff where I don't want to mention the guy's name anymore, but it's like, it's almost like the attitude, we got him on a run, keep buying, we got him on a run, keep buying, keep stacking, we got him on a run. I don't know. Be careful, because I think with the silver, you're pretty safe. With the gold, I don't know. I got some doubts about that stuff, and I always had doubts about it. I think with the palladium you're pretty safe, but I think with the silver you're better off than the palladium, because it's more recognizable, and especially if you got like U.S. minted coins, that's better. It's more recognizable by the masses. So I mean, that's something people understand. A lot of people never heard of palladium, but I think palladium is going to do about as good as silver. And I want to point out something. Back in 2010, I don't know if you can see this chart very well, but palladium did about 81% increase, where silver did about a 70% increase in that year. So that's according to this chart, December 9th, 2010. Could be a little off, because maybe it went a little higher, but palladium actually outperformed silver in 2010. Now in 2011, no, palladium went down. But that doesn't mean, it's usually like if you have a bad year, people are like, oh, avoid that. But if the fundamentals are very solid for the metal, like palladium and platinum, there's a lot of demand going on, and the performance was lousy in 2012. Terrible. Went down. But, that's what happens when you're setting yourself up for a very good year. 2012 could be a stellar year. That's one reason I kind of look at technical charts like they're very, very useful, especially picking price points where there's going to be resistance, as far as where people psychologically either buy or sell. But sometimes you got to look at other things too, because if the fundamentals are there, Yeah, I could say that, but in other words, what I'm looking at is when will there be an actual turn of events? What will actually make the metals go up now? And just the fact that they had a bad year, and fundamentally they're very strong, so they're going to make up for lost time. A lot of them are. This was something, and actually I have up here, this is year 1933. I would actually put this $20 for gold, and I'm referring this to silver, just kind of looking at something that was where I think more reasonably some of the numbers might go to, because even though I'm looking at 2011 was not a good year for silver, and I'm not trying to influence my opinion on the fact of what happened last year. I'm trying to influence my opinion on where exactly gold is going to, because I do think if gold goes very high, there's going to be something to set it back. And this gold-silver ratio is something to look. The silver-gold ratio is something to look at very carefully to see where silver is going to go to. And just bear with me on this a second. Year 1933. Before that, gold was $20 an ounce. Then they tried to confiscate it, and I know they really didn't confiscate it like the way maybe some people might think. Might be maybe 1 in 10 people turned the stuff in, and 90% said screw you, basically. And but say whatever was turned in was actually revalued at $35, and basically that made the dollar go down about a little over 40% in one shot. So I think something like this situation could come about today. And the quite obvious way it's going to come about is because of these electronic funds. That's the reason the whole physical. Well, but the electronic funds can easily be confiscated. Whether it's in PSLV or not, or whoever the hell it's in, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's, if there's a serious emergency. Who the hell knows what could happen as far as confiscation or extremely high taxation? So, and in the fact that you have it in electronic metals, if the metals are in electronic form, you can be screwed. Put it polite, succinctly, right? So, quite obviously, that is definitely the case for the coins and stuff. But what I am thinking is, I don't think they're going to let gold go extremely high. I think there's a little more controls than you think. And when Gerald Celente years ago was talking about $2,000 gold, they'll crash it down. And you notice every time, it's getting up to 1900, everybody was making predictions for $2,500 gold in 2011. Now they're like making predictions. Well, I think it'll be $2,000 in the second half of 2012. These people are a bunch of predicting worms. I really don't like them, and because they'll highball everything when everything's looking good, and they'll lowball everything when everything's looking bad, and they don't know. They're just a bunch of talking idiots. That's what I look at them as. But reasonably speaking, if you're looking at gold, even at $5,000 an ounce with 15 to 1 or 20 to 1 ratio at silver, that's $250 an ounce. It's a 750% gain from 33.50 today. That's a hell of a lot of a big gain, 7.5 times. If it goes to a 15 to 1 ratio, what you got to remember, 1980 or 79 when that happened, it was a very brief moment when it went to that ratio. You had to catch it in a matter of hours. So, maybe it's going to go to 10 to 1, but be reasonable about it. The fact that if it theoretically can go to that, how many people are going to catch that exact moment? Not many. Not many at all. So, it might be $250 to $300 an ounce on silver. I may be overly bullish on silver when I'm thinking, $500, $600, $700. That might be out of line. And there's a hell of a lot of people who tell you that I'm way low at that number. I don't know. I don't know. These are tremendous gains. If you have a 15-to-1 ratio, gold goes up like 3 times. And silver goes up 10 times. That's astronomical. That's astronomical. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not just bearing this news on the fact that this had a bad year in 2011 or whatever. I'm also weighing in the fact that the governments will do whatever they can to knock down and suppress the price of gold. And I think all these things that are going on, plain as day, are contrived. It is to push the entire globe into a global financial system. Just as I stated before with the euro may fall apart, possibly, but if it falls apart, it's going to be planned to fall apart so it can be restructured very quickly. The concept of a euro and a euro-wide bonds and a European nation as one nation is definitely not going away. Definitely not. I know this for a fact. I know this like anything. Now, as far as palladium, I think palladium is a far, far, far better alternative than gold, because now you've seen these types of increases. Like if you say gold went from 2,000 to 5,000, that's a 250% increase. But silver is going to go far more than that. It's probably going to go like, if gold went to 5,000, silver would be 10 times increase. So you're going to get a hell of a lot more gains. And I think palladium is going to get similar, because I think palladium is going to be worth as much as gold or more than gold. Probably going to be in line with platinum. And platinum is roughly 1.5 times the price of gold normally. So if you just do the calculations, it comes out to roughly the same thing. If you had, say, 1.5 times the price of gold at $5,000 an ounce, it's 1,000%. And if you're looking at silver, it's approximately the same thing. It's approximately the same thing. And if you look historically what happened in 1979 and 80, palladium had an extremely good run during that time too. Except there's no palladium frenzy out there. You don't see palladium channels left and right. That's what, silver channels aren't even that popular. I mean, it's fat loss is more popular than anything, believe me, and I know all about those types of things and health things and everything, but that's why I say palladium's a great alternative to gold. And the other thing is supposed confiscation. This metal really isn't monetized. The Russians, I think, were the first ones to put out a coin. They might have been the only ones that monetized it. And Russia, I think, has a very big interest in pushing up the price of this metal, because they're one of the big suppliers of the global market. So, and Russia is a very powerful force in the world, quite obviously. So I think this metal is going to do very, very well, and it's going to do about as good as silver percentage-wise. But I just think palladium is far better than gold. If you're investing in gold, definitely go palladium instead. And but I think silver is actually a better metal than palladium, because it's recognizable by the masses, and it's the visibility of it is a lot better, because you can have, it takes up a lot more room, but obviously you don't need to be walking around with a more expensive coin or that type of stuff to trade or whatever you need to do. But I just wanted to put this out and revisit this issue about confiscation. I think that's going to come about at some point in time. It's not going to come about this year, obviously. But I had to revisit this because I think it's a given. It's a given. It always happens all the time. will try to confiscate. And the only way they're going to be really successful about that is through the electronic markets. So my plan is to get the hell out of them. I just know there's not. I just say it's an indelible fact that this year there's not going to be any confiscation of any metals, and there's not going to be all kinds of things going on where they're going to try to tax the hell out of the metals or anything like that before elections. They're not going to do anything crazy like that. So I think, I'd like to get in these electronic markets fairly hard and, get out hopefully near the top and take the cash. Why not? And just keep holding all the coins as usual and wait for whenever the heck that's high is going to be. But like I said, I think some of the numbers are very unreasonable as far as what's going on with silver. And I don't know, maybe this 250 to 300 bucks an ounce may be it. I know I keep changing this forecast out there, but I think I might be overly bullish on silver when I'm saying $500, $600, $700 an ounce. And there's a hell of a lot of people out there that would tell me that's way too low. And I don't know. I don't think so. I don't know. I'd be cautious about this. Watch this ratio though, because I think when this ratio gets down to about 20 to 1, it's going to be hard to catch anything past that. It's going to be hard. When it starts getting down low like this, I'd be getting rid